Hey everybody, real quick here, want to show you a few things. First of all, you may have noticed I have a much more complete bee suit this week. That's because I've been stung a couple of times in the last month and I've had a reaction. We don't know how serious a reaction yet. It definitely swelled up my entire hand, and I don't want that to happen again. So, more complete bee suit makes my wife feel better, and EpiPen just in case. All right. In addition to the bees, there have been a lot of wasp activities, yellow jacket in particular. As you can see, we just put this here about 10 minutes ago, and I already have, looks like 2, possibly 3 wasps. There are a lot of wasps up here in the roof, and I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a lot of wasps around property. So I want to tell you that so you'll be careful, but also to let you know that wasps are not bees. One of the stings that I got this year was actually from a wasp, and so I really don't like them. There was a nice big wasp nest down by the herb garden that our facilities maintenance department took care of. But I also want to point out that there are trees in the parking lot that are covered with wasps, and we're not 100% sure why, but there are a lot of them. And you can't really see so much, but they're all around me right now, and we're not anywhere near the beehives right now. These are all wasps, okay? So please be careful, and if you do get stung, please don't blame the bees, okay? Thanks. Hi everybody, we're here at the beehives today. This hive in particular is one we've been watching very closely. These are our bees from last year. They got through the winter just fine. They were doing really well. Then they had a pretty serious mite problem, and we took care of that. Then we had a missing queen, and I think we took care of that. So now we're just kind of getting them ready for winter. And how we get them ready, even though it's still pretty warm out right now, is we start feeding them and feeding them. So with the snow that we had a couple of weeks ago, a lot of flowers have died. So the food sources are getting a little bit lower. Just to make sure they have enough honey for the winter, we feed them sugar water. Okay, so that's kind of what we've been doing here, and they have been eating it like nobody's business. So basically what we're going to do is open the hive, we're going to see how they're doing, we're going to refill their sugar water, and then we're going to let them go about their business. Okay, so they look pretty active, which is good news. And see my little repair here, sorry about that, but we noticed that the wood was starting to warp here a little bit, and so I actually need to replace this box. We'll do that before we close them up for the winter, okay? So real quick, let's just give them a little bit of smoke. Okay, and again, what the smoke does, it doesn't hurt them, it sort of confuses them. And they don't like it. It smells like there's a fire, so they don't like the sound of that. Plus, it covers up some of the natural pheromones that they use to communicate with each other. And so that's good, because bees communicate very, very well, and if they see you as a threat, that can be bad. So let's see here. This is our feeder that I put here last 5 days ago. I put this here and it was full. This is 1 gallon of sugar water, and they've eaten every bit of it. Okay, so they're even actually starting to get up inside of it, which is crazy. So we're going to refill that, and as long as we're here, we're going to see how they're doing. I also have a nice big chunk of fondant right here. They don't like it as much as they like the sugar water, but as you can see, they don't really care all that much. They've been eating it. I think what happens is when the sugar water runs out, they eat this, and then when there's sugar water here, they ignore this. So one way or the other, they're getting fed. And they are active today. So let's see here. All All right. So again, this top box here is actually, we don't really want them to keep this box. This is what's called a honey super, and we just put it here to give them a little extra room. And so they've actually been filling it with honey, which is good. But between now and the 1st of November, we kind of want them to move the honey back down. So I'm just going to see how they're doing. What we want is these lower 2 boxes to be full of honey and bees. And for these guys to survive the winter, they probably need at least 70 pounds of honey. Okay, so let's see how they're doing up here. Well, awful lot of honey right there. Let's see. Yep, they are filling this pretty well. This is just one of the little frames. And again, ultimately I don't want them to keep it here. What will happen as the nights start getting colder is they'll take this honey and they'll move it down into their main hive. Right now they're not quite sure. They know that winter's coming. We've just passed the equinox. The queen can tell that the nights are getting a little bit longer, but right now they're not panicked. So stocking up. And the reason this is called a honey super is because we don't want any eggs up here. Okay, so what we do is there's a layer right here that I'll show you, and that is called the queen excluder. So what that means, and let me pull it out for you to see, is that bees can get through but the queen can't. So when you have a queen excluder in, you know there are no eggs in there because the queen can't get to it. See, this is the queen excluder. So, like I said, bees can easily travel right here, but the queen is a little bit bigger and she cannot. We've got a little bit of comb here, which has been building up. Get some of that out of the way. And again, this doesn't hurt anything, but eventually it'll become kind of a pain. So we don't want them to get too much. We don't want them to get crazy with it. And this is just wax. They haven't filled any honey in there. Bees like to fill up space. They don't like a lot of space. So if it's a little bit of space, they'll fill it with what's called propolis, which is sort of like a glue that they make out of wax and their own saliva. And if it's a large space, they'll fill it with beeswax, and they'll then fill the beeswax with honey. You can see here what they're kind of doing already. Anywhere they have space, that's what they want to fill. Okay. So we are in the main hive. One of the things we look at when we first open it like this is just how many bees are sitting right here. It's not a scientific method, it just gives you sort of an idea of the population of the hive. And so I see a good amount of bees here. That's good news. As you know, the last time we looked at this beehive, there was a lot of brood, and that is good news because we were worried about this hive for a while. But I feel a little bit better now. And we're going to see once again how they're doing. And that is pretty good. You see, oh, I broke up some of the honey there. You see the honey? And she's sort of stuck in it. So they're doing okay. So bees will make honey from sugar water just as easily as they will make it from nectar. Nectar is really, for all intents and purposes, just sugar water. But honey made from sugar water doesn't taste very good to us. So we would never add that sugar water if we were planning on keeping this honey. And once again, here we go. The areas that are capped right here are full of honey. That's good news. And some of the other areas you can see are glistening a little bit. So those have honey in them, but they're not completely full. And these bees are angry today. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a little bit more smoke, just to confuse them a little bit. Okay, that's go. Get. That's a lot better. Again, more honey. These darker areas that you see over here, that's pollen. So basically, for the bee, the honey is carbohydrate and the pollen is protein. Just like us, they need a mixture of both. And they need a lot because, as you see, they're very busy and they burn a lot of energy. And even in the wintertime, they burn a lot of energy. That's how they stay warm. So some of these frames are pretty empty. Let's see how we get here. Oh. Again, more honey. You can see it sort of glistening there. Let's put this over here. Now that feels a lot heavier. This one, as you can see, it looks like it bowed a little bit, and so the bees don't mind. They just build more honeycomb. See? They have their own little labyrinth built in there. Any place they have space, they're just going to fill it. So far, I'm seeing a fair amount of honey. I haven't seen any brood yet. They do stop laying quite so much this time of year, and here's some brood. So as you can see, the capped ones are bees that are almost ready to emerge. Inside there, I don't know how well you can see it, there are some, what looks like little larvae inside. Those are just about to be capped. And do I see any eggs? I don't currently see any eggs on this one, but the eggs look like tiny, tiny little grains of rice. So we have healthy brood, we have honey. I feel pretty good about this hive. I think we're through the worst of our problems. As long as they have plenty of food. So right now it's third week in September as I'm filming this. By the first week in November, we want to be able to close this hive up. Okay? There's a lot of brood there. And they are just ready. So they haven't gotten the notice that winter's coming yet. They're still trying to build up their supply. So that means we have a very active queen somewhere. So we are no longer worried about our queen, I'll tell you that. And we know she's here even though we don't see her. All right, we'll check one more frame. And then I feel like we're satisfied. So we really don't want to intrude on the bees any more than we have to. Every time we break into the hive like this, it disturbs them, it slows them down. It's not good. See this right here, this little nodule? So that is a drone cell. So basically, and there's a few more up here, when they're kind of rounded that way, that means that the bee that is inside there is a drone, which is a male bee, okay? Pretty soon, as the nights get colder, you're going to see less and less drones because nobody really wants the boys around for wintertime. It takes a lot to feed them. They're really big. They don't contribute to the colony. So one of these nights very soon, the bees will just get sick of the drones and kick them out. We've all been there, right? And look at all that pollen. I don't know where they're getting pollen from, but they're getting quite a lot of it there. All that orange stuff is pollen. So yeah, pretty healthy colony. We look pretty good. Next time we come into this hive, we're going to do another mite check. I wanted to let them build up their numbers a little bit before we did it, and I think that they have sufficiently done that. We want to make sure that these bees are as free from mites as we can make them. They'll never be 100% free from mites, but we want to get them as close as we can before we close them up for the wintertime. Because once they're in there, they're in there. Now, as you know, mites are a small parasite that didn't really show up until about 20 years ago, and now it's everywhere. Except for Australia. For whatever reason, Australia has been very good about keeping mites away from their bees. They don't allow any new bees into their country, and they don't want you bringing them.
All right,
Let's go ahead and close them up. They're already upset with me enough. The last thing you want is 30,000 females upset with you. Okay. Okay. We have our lid. This is called the inner lid. Let's go ahead and fill our sugar water. Now, how thick you make it depends on what time of year it is. In the summertime, you make a relatively thin mixture. Look, they're all in here. But as it starts to get colder, you make it thicker and thicker. And the reason you do that is, first of all, so they don't have to work as hard. But second of all, the thicker the mixture, the more it tells the queen, when she starts seeing really thick nectar coming in, it signals to her that winter is coming. Time to stop laying so many eggs and get rid of the drones. And so that's what she'll do. Okay. Let's test that. Okay. Oh, wait. Last thing you want to do is have it leak everywhere. We have our little seal here, which is not going in place correctly. There we go. Turn it upside down. That's a good seal. Put it in. These little feeders are great, by the way. This is actually a quail feeder. Somebody got the bright idea that it would be just as good for bees, and it is. So it allows the bees access without allowing them to drown too much, okay? And it's starting to fill up in here a little bit, yes. There we go. Okay. Let's put our top cover back on. And our lid. Next time we're here, we'll replace this bottom box, which seems to be warping a little bit. We'll do a hive check and we'll give them some more syrup. And we're going to keep doing that until about the 1st of November. And I'll show you how that works. We close them up for the winter and they're all ready to go. That's it. Have a good week. Hi. So we're going to try an experiment. I just bought this stuff, Honeybee Healthy. So who knows if it'll work. This is basically spearmint oil and lemongrass oil, and it is said to help spur the bees to feed a little bit more. I don't know. We'll find out. So we're putting it in this beehive and not putting it in the other two, and we'll see how well they do. This one has about 1.5 gallons of syrup in it. We're going to check it in 4 or 5 days and see if they've eaten it all. And now, come on, little girls. Out of the way. All right, so I kind of put it on there sideways. So I got a little sponge in here for them to keep them from drowning, and they can just come and drink all the sugar water they want. This one has a nice, terrible smell, so but hopefully the bees like it, and I'll let you know.